So anyway, I want to get started here. Lynn is here to help mind the chat as well as to add content and support just in case the technology doesn't work. I am so glad to see all of you today because this is such an important topic. And if you have not put your name and area in the chat, please do so. You can also ask questions in the chat and Lynn will interrupt me. I'm very comfortable with being interrupted. The slides are also linked in the chat, so you can go ahead and take a look at those when you're at some point in time, but they're also going to be in the online teaching resources, so they will be available for you that way as well. All right. So today we're going to talk about, bless you.
Bless you.
Hi, Whitney. Glad to see you.
I'm here. Thank you so much.
All right. We're going to talk today about humanizing your online courses. And I have to say that when I first started taking classes about how to teach online over 10 years ago, the teacher and the class content that stuck with me the most was this idea of humanizing, which is actually by Michelle Pacansky-Brock. And her goal so many years ago was to make sure that her classes online were just as good as the classes that were face-to-face on the ground. And she found that humanizing was the way to do it. So we're going to talk about that today. Materials here are adapted from her, the @ONE Humanizing course, which is by her but others from @ONE, from the Center for Urban Education, Zaretta Hammond, and Dr. Frank Harris and Dr. Luke Wood. So I think I'm going to minimize us so that I don't have to keep moving us around. Excuse me for doing that. I don't like to do that, but I want to have space to see.
We don't see that.
Oh, good. Fantastic.
Yeah, everybody has their own view, whatever they want.
Whatever they want. Thank you, Lynn. Okay, so what is humanized online learning or teaching? It's actually really includes a couple of things. The first is that it both supports the affective and cognitive dimensions, and it really shows a combination of how the affective and cognitive domains work together to have a greater output from students. And it begins with human presence and trust to foster instructor-student relationships. And it really builds on the intellectual capacity of a diverse student body, which we all have. And it also draws upon culturally responsive teaching, validation theory, and I want to just let everybody know that anytime you see something underlined, there's a link to that item. So there's actually a link to validation theory in case you have not seen it. Social presence and the universal design for learning, and applies them to the online environment. Okay, this is where hold on, Lynn. This is where I run into problems because I tried to use the arrow and it's not allowing me to. So I'm going to try to escape here.
Really?
Yep. It stopped. Excuse me one moment. I'm going to start sharing again. All right.
Wow.
Let's see. I'm going to try to escape. It's not allowing me to escape.
But it's a.
Please excuse me for that. Lynn, can you please share your screen actually, and I'm going to have you help because at this point in time I can't move forward on my slides. Excuse us for the brief delay here.
Okay.
All right, so we're on the third slide. Fantastic. And so I wanted to share also that this also meets Title V, where that any portion of a course conducted through distance education includes regular and effective contact between instructor and students. And so that's really a big focus as well. So today we're going to be really talking about humanizing through affective domain and the cognitive domain, but also through meeting Title V and regular and effective contact. All right, we'll move forward. It also supports the CVC and OEI rubric. So the instructor provides multiple resources to students to help successfully start the course. It includes ample opportunities for regular and effective contact, and students are provided with multiple means of contacting the instructor and are encouraged to do so through the course. And I want to point out at the bottom again, there's the rubric there. If you wanted to learn more about the OEI rubric, you could click on that. All right, Lynn, we're ready to go to the next page. All right, so what is interesting is that according to research on community college online students, the main thing that mattered is that the instructor cared about learning. So the only course design element that mattered was the quality of instructor and student interactions. And so I also have linked an instructor presence guide, which you can take a look at that. But really the center is that my instructor cared about my learning. That is really important. And so the difficulty of the content that you share with your students can be very high and it can be very robust as long as the instructor actually cares. All right, we're ready to move to the next slide. So the principles of humanizing are presence. So don't be a robot. You don't have to be perfect so that the blip, like I was saying, that I cannot share my screen, my slides and move forward. So I went to plan B. That happens. There's things that happen and students are fine with that. And they actually like to see your human side and your foibles.
Also, one thing too is that showing them how you troubleshoot helps them to realize that they can troubleshoot. They don't have to just give up if they can't figure something out, right away. They can ask for help. They can, search around, try something else.
Right. And the next principle is awareness, that you know your students, that they feel like you know them, that you use their name, and that you use what you know about them to respond to them. And that you also have empathy, that you see things through your students' eyes and you are willing to learn from them as well as be flexible in order to help them. All right, next slide, please. Thank you, Lynn. All right, so part of that includes being a warm demander. So it doesn't mean that anything goes. It means that you are there to try and support your students and help them be as successful as they can. So it is anchored by being caring, but it also lets them know that you have high expectations from them. And so Hammond notes that through this relationship, you challenge your students to push themselves and grow from dependent to independent learners while pushing back on. And so there are certain things that I do to humanize at the very beginning of my course that I won't continue doing throughout the entire thing. I'm there to try and help them learn how to onboard, learn how to learn the material, and then I back off as needed. All right, next slide, please. All right, and part of being humanized is that you are equity-minded. And I want to read this quotation about social historical discrimination of Blacks and Latinos. The students benefit from full disclosure of terms for success. So this is really critical that you let them know what they need to do to be actually successful in the class, and your content and style choices actually help with that. And we're going to be showing you some samples of what that looks like so that you can use that for your students. Thank you.
Next.
Yes, please. All right, so 5 equity-minded practices for teaching online. The first is to be intrusive, meaning that if students aren't participating, that you actually are intrusive and you try and give them friendly reminders, you try and find out what's wrong. You're intrusive to help them onboard and feel comfortable with your class. Another is that you're relational, that you're culturally relevant and affirming, that you're community focused, and you are race conscious. And that includes the visuals that you include on your sources as well, that they're not just white people. And sometimes it's hard to find something that doesn't involve a white human when you're choosing a visual. And so humanizing removes the barrier by establishing psychological safety and trust through instructor-student relationships. And what's interesting is that it's both the cognition and the emotions that are two sides of the same coin. They're not separated. So the fact that you were paying attention to the affective domain doesn't mean that you are not paying attention to the cognitive domain as well. They go hand in hand to help your students succeed. Next, please. All right, so we're going to really spend a lot of time focusing on our takeaways and examples, and I want you to feel free to use and revise materials that you would like to. And I also want to point out that sometimes this will take you down the rabbit hole, so you'll click on one thing and then you'll continue to click on another and another, and you'll find several different things. So please pay attention to the underlined materials. So we'll move to the next slide. So the first thing is a learning pact, and this is a revised one from Michelle Pacansky-Brock. And what's wonderful about a learning pact is that it helps students understand, specifically for online classes, what the students can expect from me as the instructor, and then I have expectations about what I'm going to expect from my students. And some of them are the same and some of them are a little bit different, but they can expect that I'm going to communicate with them, that I will be flexible, that I'm going to be supportive and trustworthy, that I care, that I will treat them with dignity and respect, and that I won't be perfect. And so if I make mistakes, I ask them to please bring them to my attention. And I want them to know that this is not an online correspondence course, that we are a learning community. And I expect them to be an active participant, that they will communicate with me, that they will treat peers with dignity and respect, and that we learn. Classes are for learning, that they're going to make mistakes, and that there are opportunities to learn and grow, and to please communicate with me when I've made a mistake. And I'm always very grateful for that. Next slide, please, Lynn. All right, so this right here is actually a very important slide. I wanted to take some time on this. And the questions here are, what could humanized pre-course contact look like? And I don't know if you ever have opened up your summer classes early, even if it's just a few days early, or if you wait until the first day to open it up. But there's a big high opportunity zone prior to the very first day of class that if we take advantage of, we can really help our students on board. And then what could humanized contact look like in the first 3 weeks? So when I have my online classes, if I have the time available and I'm not late with getting my orientation ready, I try to open up the class 5 to 7 days early. I send a welcome letter with an introduction, and I open up that orientation module early. Sometimes it's just a few days early, but usually I try to get it to be at that week early. Canvas does allow us to open up the class early. It actually does. I didn't have a problem with that, Mark. But
I can tell you how to do that.
I tried to do that. Okay, I couldn't figure it out. So,
okay. So you can publish your course, but the default setting is for your course to begin on the first day of classes. So what you need to do is go into your settings for the course. So when you have your navigation bar for the course, you scroll to the bottom for settings, and then it has some dates like halfway down the bottom, course start, course end. And you can change the date there. We can when we're done with the presentation part, we can show you how to do that.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Yeah, it's really super easy.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you can also send this particular letter through an announcement, but you can also send it through the Rosters Plus or wherever it is that you can send that email so that it doesn't start out in Canvas. And then I have a letter that I send, you know, a couple of days after that. It's actually a shorter, more encouragement sort of announcement. And I've always had students jump on and start the orientation early, always. And I name drop there, and I'm going to show you the examples in a minute. And then the day of, I send an opening day letter and help onboard students who are adding, because a lot of times students are adding that first and second day. And so I try to support them as well, and I send them back to look at the old announcements as well. And if I need to give them a little bit of extra time to finish the orientation, I have that built in. So the first week or so, I give pass, no pass credit with brief, friendly messages with names, okay? I initially send reminders to turn items in that first couple of weeks. So I will use the default grade and do that, and we can show you how to do it. I've done it in earlier sessions, but I think I'm going to make a video about it and have it available with this presentation. I'll do that later today. I also clarify instructions via announcements as needed. I also send default feedback messages in the grade book to those who completed the assignment and share feedback with them about that. And then I also send default feedback messages to students who didn't. And I usually have students who say, oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Sorry, I didn't get that in. I'm going to get that in right now. And I'm very much open in that first week or so to take things where students are just learning how to submit things to Canvas. And again, I share examples with student names. Lynn, can you please open up the link for contact samples for me? Thank you.
Just one thing I wanted to also point out is that if you do a navigation video or a video for how to access Canvas that you can add to your initial contact, that's always a good idea too, because they don't know how to get on Canvas. We can't presume they know that. Even though we can link to Canvas, it's sometimes not enough. To humanize your course is to actually walk them through everything they're going to need.
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know that I can get to that, Janet, because it keeps bringing up the bar to move.
Can you hit escape and then make it smaller?
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
That's okay.
Which slide was it? This one?
That one right there. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I put together some letters that I use for humanizing on online courses. And Lynn, I'm going to have you scroll down. You can copy and use what you'd like. So this is my first message that I send to them. This is just a sample for 103. And there's quite a bit of information about what an online class is, what the course description is. You can keep scrolling down. About Canvas, the first week, I talk to them about having their textbooks, but what they can do if they don't have their textbooks yet, that I have the first couple of chapters or assignments. I have those scanned and on Canvas available in case they don't have it. And then I have the regular things that students want to know about. And then I end it with, you're not alone, and I'm looking forward to meeting you. So that's my longer piece letter that I send to them. And that one's my longer one because students are very excited to learn, okay, what is she going to expect? What are we going to do? Lynn, if you could scroll down a little bit further, that would be great.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that this is the one that you send 4 to 7 days early.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. A couple of 2 to 3 days early, I've already had students who are on the orientation, some even finish. And I like to, if you'll see the mention, I have a student, it says kudos to those who've already started. I mentioned the student who was the first one. I'm reminding them that there's no obligation to start early because I don't want students to go, oh my gosh, I'm already late, but I thought class started on this day. This is just a reminder that it doesn't. But I'm trying to encourage them to start early. Don't begin an assignment on the day that it's due. So this is just a very short letter. I like this to be shorter so that students will actually read it. Sometimes if we send emails that are just so long and every single one of them is long that we don't read it. And I don't read certain ones that I get sent to me. And so we know that students aren't always reading theirs as well. And then I have a letter that I have ready to go on that very first day of class. It also is a shorter one, and it reminds, okay, so this is our real first day of class, and I give them some suggestions about announcements, when the orientation is due, questions, and then I have a little bonus for those who, you know, I actually have something for those who finish early. And then I tend to open up the first module later on that day. I wait till the evening time so that if students have finished the orientation and they want to get started, they can. And again, the tone is there that I'm welcoming them and that I'm glad that they're here. Lynn, if you could scroll down.
I just wanted to point out one other thing.
Yes.
There is a real, I don't even know what the right word is. We oftentimes have a big tendency to open up all of our course at once to let them see the whole thing. And that can be overwhelming to them in the first week, especially in a 6-week course when there is so much work that is done. And I know in my 6-week course, and maybe in Janet's too, the bulk of the work is earlier in the term so that we have more time at the end for revisions, for things that might have come up in the 6 weeks that would need some changes, to allow for any kind of technological problems that may have happened, acts of God, like, worldwide pandemics and things like that.
Right.
So that your students are not sitting there going, oh man, I can't do this. I can't do this. It's too much. I'm shutting down. You know what I mean? So that's something to think about.
Right. And I used to open up my class, the whole thing, and then until I understood too that I want students to be together too. It's a learning community. So I don't want some of the students to finish the whole course in 3 or 4 weeks, whereas others are, they're late. I want them to sort of stay together. And so I'll open up stuff a little bit early, but not too early, because I want them to understand that this is like a face-to-face class. This is a learning community. And then a couple of days in, we're still in our orientation here. I'm sharing a couple of things that maybe a couple of students have shared on our Padlet, which you'll see an example of in a little bit here. But I'm wanting to bring students in. I'm wanting to bring their words in. I'm wanting them to be happy that they're included there. And then I'm giving them some tips here that maybe they're ready to listen to them about how to be successful in the class, which includes being proactive, when to sign in, planning for the unexpected. So try to have the assignments done early as opposed to starting them the day that they're due. That learning is something that's going to be challenging, and it's okay that their beliefs are challenged and that they feel like they can't do this. It's normal. And then I also include them to use their notes app where they can keep notes of things that they're learning, special things that may not be parts of assignments that they can then bring into their writing assignments. And I ask them about that later on to share those notes. So these are just the pre-course to first week contact samples, and you are welcome to use whatever is useful. All right, so Lynn, I'm going to have you go back to the slideshow. And I'm thinking that you don't need to open up the whole thing, because I'm going to have you opening up several links from now on here. Okay, all right, so student surveys before, during, and after. And Lynn, one of the things I was going to ask you to do, and I forgot yesterday when you asked, is when I put this up on our online teaching resources, if you could include your student information form as well, because I really liked what you did with yours too.
Okay.
So if you could do that, that would be great. If you could open up the student information form, that first underline right there, that would be great. Thank you. And so you can start scrolling down. Again, I do start out with, I'm happy you're here and I want you to be successful. What can I do to help you? I have certain ones that they need to to including their email address so that I can email them if I need to. I'm asking them what their name is, what they would like me to call them, which sometimes is different than what their legal name is. And then I'm making sure that they've actually read certain things that I think are important. So this is pointing them back to the orientation. If you haven't read the community ground rules or the attendance policy or the communication plan, please go back and do so. So that's helping to point them back if they need to. I'll have you scroll down a little bit further. I want to know where they are in college, how I can communicate with them. Are they okay with voice or video messages, which I like to leave individually for students. Some students don't like that, so I like to know ahead of time. I want to know how they're feeling, what their work ethic tends to be. You know, do they get it done on time? Are they early? Are they sometimes a bit late? What's one thing that might interfere with the success in this class? And I like to know that because I can sometimes help with that and send an announcement out saying, I know that this might be an issue, so here are some suggestions to help you. What is one characteristic of a great online instructor? I'm going to show you a few answers in a minute. And a great online class, questions for me, and then convey their thoughts about my approach to the class just via the orientation. So Lynn, I'm going to have you go back to the slideshow, and if you could go to the sample responses to just right underneath there, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, so this, maybe we can go to present for this one. I actually took screenshots of this. These are responses. The class has not even started yet. Okay, so this is early. So what is a characteristic of a great online class? That it's open-minded, being able to learn, time arrangement is free, planned assignments, easy navigability, okay, easy to navigate. And so I'm always working on that. I'm always trying to make it easier to navigate. And I asked them to tell me about their thoughts about my approach. And I really appreciated that I had a student in the middle of the big long one that says, I love your approach. I'm very excited to be part of it, a little nervous since it's my first time doing anything online, but I'm looking forward to the challenge. I do have time blocked out, but now that I'm able to see the syllabus, I'm able to request more days towards work and Zoom meetings. Can't wait. So this gives them a little bit of an opportunity too, if they decide that they want to have a little bit more time for the class, they can go ahead and contact their work ahead of time, which is another wonderful reason why one might want to open the orientation a little bit early, specifically for the 6-week class. Lynn, did you want to add something?
No, this looks great.
All right, I'm going to have you go ahead and go back. Thank you, Lynn.
No problem.
Okay, so I'm going to show you the sample mid-semester check-in. This was actually a voice thread that I wanted to show you, and this. And if it starts,
do you need me to do this, or are you going to do this?
I am not going to have people listen to it. I'm just going to have you move forward and slides, just a couple of slides. If I start talking, just turn me off. This is a mid-semester check-in for VoiceThread. So this is another way to find out about how students are doing. This is adapted from Colleen Kalt from our English department. Lynn, at the very bottom to your right, there's a little arrow. It's just like the slideshow. If you can click on the arrow down to your lower right.
Okay, I was just doing the chat.
All right.
Now I'm doing everything, Janet.
I know.
Damn it.
All right, so I'm going to have you click, though. Click to the right. Click it again, because we don't need to listen to me. Are you? Oh, Lynn has stopped for a minute. I wonder if I have too. Oh.
It's for the voice thread.
Right. So I'm asking them what's worked so far. What do you think you're doing well? What is helping? I'm going to have you go forward. These questions are a little bit different because it's a mid-semester check-in. I'm going to have you move forward. This is for my teacher track, and you guys can always go back and take a look at this and actually copy this if you want. Next slide, please, Lynn. I'm asking them what they can improve upon. Do they need to improve upon their study habits, asking for help, or being uncomfortable with learning? So I'm asking them to think about their learning. I'm going to have you move forward with that, Lynn.
And these are done on VoiceThread, but you could do these in a discussion board in Canvas in the same basic way. You could do them on a Google form like the other intake.
Right.
So these are just some to show you some variation. But if you want to simplify, you know, Canvas can do all of these things.
Right. But what happens here is that students respond and they're able to see everybody else's responses. So you're not seeing the students here, but the students are able to see each other's comments. So they comment and then they comment back on their peers. But so again, so we're at the end, share something you'll do to reward yourself for a job well done. So I'm going to have you go ahead and click out of this.
Okay.
And again, this is another option for student surveys. And as Lynn said, we don't need to go to the last one. The last one's a Google form, but you can click on it to take a look on it if you would like to, for sure. And
just real quick, there's a question in the chat from, let me go back and see who that is from Chase. She says she has 90 students in her class. Do you have any recommendations for ways that she can do this level of engagement with that many students?
Yes, and it's called default grading. And what that means is that you're still doing this level of engagement, but you're giving them credit for just having participated.
And you're giving them all the same message. You're sending an individual message, but it goes to everybody.
It goes to everybody. So I would send them a default message through the grade book on Canvas, those who participated. Like, let's say I've assigned them the survey and they've turned in the survey, maybe 50 students have done the survey and 40 students have not. I would send on default grade, the default message. I would send a message to everybody who turned it in and I would say, thank you so much for your feedback. I'm going to be using it moving forward. I want to point, and you might want to answer a couple of questions that you thought were important there. And that would go out to everybody who participated. And then I would send a default message to the students who haven't yet done the actual survey, for example, or the assignment, and say, this is a friendly reminder, this assignment is due by tonight. If you're having an issue, please let me know. And usually they're not having an issue. And I get messages back, oh yeah, thank you for reminding me, I forgot. And I do that for the first 3 weeks or so. And then I let students know, okay, I'm not going to be sending those messages anymore. Make sure you're using your calendar and you're paying attention to when things are due. So yes, you can absolutely do it for a group of 90 students.
And Chase, I know that we showed you how to do that at one point in the past, but we'll show you again on the sample course.
Yes.
Actually, my question was more about, you've acquired a tremendous amount of data about all the students, what they like, what they don't like, what their strengths and weaknesses are, how they feel about the approach to the course. Would I still acquire it and just throw it all away? That seems sad.
Well, I think you're acquiring it and you're looking through and you're looking for patterns of what students appreciate, patterns. And you know, that feedback that I got from 7 students, like I said, the class has not started yet. I'll have that. And if there are several students who are saying, I'm really kind of confused about XYZ, then I can go back and go to the announcement, or I can fix it in the course for the future classes, and then go on the announcements and say, you know, there were a few questions about X, Y, and Z. Let me share the answers here for you. So yes, I'm not responding back to every single student who's done a survey, but I'm taking a look and I'm trying to find the patterns of where I need to improve. And I've been teaching online for 10 years. And I'm always improving. And there are certain things where I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I haven't done this before. You know, just certain things. So I'm sharing the best practices that are not just my best practices. These are best practices that I've learned and acquired over a lot of time. Yeah. Okay, Lynn, can you move? Okay. I'm not going to have you present because I'm going to have you open it up in just a minute. Sorry. Or you might be able to link though. So, creating a liquid syllabus. I don't know how many of you have ever, this is another humanizing technique. Some of you might have your regular PDF syllabus. One of the things I remember Lynn sharing with me, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, is that students, and just like students, we're not reading everything that's given to us. You know, if we're given a 10 to 15 page syllabus, we're sort of hunting for the pieces of information that we're trying to find and look at. And also the way that we present a syllabus, we need to be able to get onto our phones. Students are using their phones to, hi Nancy, I'm glad you're in. Yay, Nancy's in. They need to be able to see it on their mobile devices, and it should be able to look to them the same way as it looks on the computer. So the encouragement is to use a liquid syllabus. And we don't have a lot of time to just talk about a liquid syllabus, because we could spend probably just an hour just on this. So I've included a video that you can go back and take a look at. But I would like to give you, have you take a quick look at my sample liquid syllabus. So Lynn, if you could open up sample liquid syllabus. I use S'more. You can use Google Sites for a liquid syllabus. You can use WordPress. Google Sites is free. S'more is not, but I will share with you some of the information that I've learned from using S'more.
I just use a Google Doc.
You could use a Google Doc.
And then I create headers that have links to sections so they can jump to whatever section they want.
Which is great, great. So I'm gonna have you scroll down. This is just a sample English 103 18-week semester. There's a greeting. The learning pack is there. I have the essentials right here, and this goes to them early. I want them to know when the course begins, when the course ends. I want them to know that it's not a correspondence course. I also want them to know that this is not a synchronous course. We do not meet regularly in Zoom, although we will have some Zoom meetings that they can either attend, and if they can't attend, they can watch the video. So I'm gonna have you scroll down more, Lynn. It has the regular things that every syllabus does. I'm gonna have you scroll down even further. One of the things is I have my books here, and you'll see the man search for meaning. It has the ISBN numbers. I have that there for you to take a look at, but Lynn, can you scroll up and just click on the actual book? They click on the book, it opens up and it has the ISBN numbers. And I just put that there as a little reminder for me, but students know exactly which book you want them to get. I'm gonna have you scroll down. They know what it's supposed to look like. I have that button there is for the calendar. You don't need to open it, but it's just a button to the calendar. And then I have the critical course facts that are included. Some that are specific for the online classes are the wisdom wall advice. You don't need to, I won't have you click on any.
So are these linked to other places in the liquid syllabus, or?
These are linked to other places, period. So that
okay, so they go to other websites and things?
Yes, they either go to Google or they go to Padlet. I also have the communication plan, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. That's specific for online classes. I have late work policies, and I have attendance policies for,
I see.
right.
It goes to a Google Doc.
It goes to a Google Doc, and I have a late policy here.
Okay.
So, okay, so I'm going to have you scroll down a little bit more. I have a little video about navigating this particular Canvas course. And then
Always smart.
Scroll down. There are, you know, different sorts of support from our campus, and I actually have it linked to the websites in at Cerritos. And then I have how they can contact me and some suggested guidelines for emailing the professors or any professors, and a little bit about myself there. All right, I'm going to have you go back to the slideshow, please, Lynn. I'm sorry, I'm keeping you working hard now.
This is Janice's class. Tora's asking if they're going to be able to access your class example of this syllabus.
Everything is there.
It's all linked in here.
Everything.
Tor.
Yes.
Is that what you're asking? You can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I have a lot of things into this really small presentation, everything is linked for you, and you can use whatever you would like.
And Janet uses a bunch of different tools, just so you know. And she's skilled at all these tools. You don't have to learn all these tools. You can start small. And I mean, she's been doing it for 10 years, so that's why.
Okay, so I'm going to have you go to the analytics there.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, so click on that, the analytics. And so I want to share that again, my class is not even started, but what I'm able to see on SMORE is how many people have gone and looked at my syllabus, how long they've spent on the syllabus, how many clicks they've done. And the reason why I'm showing you this is not to advertise for SMORE. I'm not saying that you need to purchase something to be able to have a syllabus. I'm just illustrating to you that students are looking, they care, they're looking early, and having a syllabus where they can access it on their phone and make it easily readable, making it really engaging, welcoming. It gets them started and they are taking a look. And like I said, this was even before the first day of class. All right, I'm going to have you go back. Thank you. All right, so I also want, I'm gonna have you go back to, can you please go to thinking about language up in the upper right-hand corner, there. So I have this, and this is definitely in present. This was from Michelle and Fabiola. There are some samples of how to create a student-centered tone so that students feel welcomed, as opposed to, you shouldn't do this, don't be late, make sure you're doing this on time, don't. This gives the positives of things that you can help students onboard and feel welcomed into your class and excited to learn and be okay with the fact that it's difficult and hard and all of that. So there's even the technical requirements at the bottom. It says use language like technology should not get in your way, but if it does, here's the tech support, so there's examples there of how to support your students. Lynn, did you want to add something about language?
No, that looks great.
All right, and then at the very, very bottom, I just want to showcase that there is, you don't have to click on it, we'll just leave it there, but it's about using Google Sites. I'm going to, the Google site that I showed you earlier about messages, that's a beautiful way to have a syllabus. So you can use a Google site for a syllabus if you would like. All right, I'm going to go back to or have you move forward to the next slide.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so here's a whole lot of mobile-friendly interactive tools, and you can pick and choose what is right for you. And if there's other mobile-friendly tools that you like to use, Lynn and I would be so appreciative if you would let us know what those tools that you like to use are, so that we can add them to the online teaching resources site. There may be ones that you use specific for your content area that others in your content area would find to be valuable. I have samples of all of these. I'm going to show you just one, and I want you to notice here where it says sample, each one has a sample of how to use it in an interactive way. So you can use Google in an interactive way. But Lynn, I'm going to actually have you go to Padlet, if you would, to the sample there. And so this is a sample Padlet where I'm asking students to choose a quotation that challenged their assumptions about ethics. I want them to cite it using MLA and text guidelines, and I remind them with a sample of how to do it. And then I want you to share commentary as to why it challenged you. I'm having them copy and paste the response right back into Canvas. So if I use a tool outside of Canvas, I always have students come back into Canvas to note that they actually completed the assignment. So I'm not going back out and hunting and pecking and making sure that they've done so. And then there's a little reminder that they can actually come back to this Padlet and use some of these quotations in their writing project. And so this is a really interactive way for students to choose quotations, and I might find a quotation or two that somebody else might want to utilize. So this is very interactive, and yet
Just a couple things in the chat.
yes.
Mark is saying he uses Cam Scanner for students to upload hand-generated work in a PDF. Amanda is saying she uses Adobe Scan, essentially the same thing. So a way for students to share that way. And then there's a question about SMORE. How much does it cost?
It's about $100 a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And I will tell you in terms of tools, if I were going to pay for a tool, it would be VoiceThread. That's like my number one pay for tool. Although the college is working on potentially getting VoiceThread for educators. We're working on a pilot project right now. I don't know that I would pay for SMORE. I'd probably use a Google site for my syllabus. The reason why I still use SMORE is that I like the analytics. I like to see what people are doing. And then there's also some really wonderful handouts that I look at from other teachers.
So there's also one other question, which is what is the rationale for using Google as opposed to Canvas? So
Okay.
the Liquid Syllabus.
Okay. Okay.
So should I stop share on this to answer that, or
sure.
are we coming back to this?
No, we won't come back to this. We're good.
Okay.
Okay. So the reason why I like using a Liquid Syllabus is that I'm linking out to a number of different assignments. Now, you could use the Canvas syllabus, but you may want to look at and see if you're able to see it on your phone. Lynn, have you looked at Canvas recently to see whether or not the syllabus actually is?
It does in the student app.
Okay, it does in the student app. Okay, the
Mhm.
reason.
But if they're using the a web-based login to Canvas, it doesn't. I don't have it linked. I don't have the syllabus even linked on my course, so I can't even check and see right now because my syllabus is Google. But from what I understand and what I have seen in pretty much everything through the Canvas app is mobile friendly. They have adapted it. Yeah.
All right. I will tell you, I have used the syllabus through Canvas, and it's like using a regular page. The one thing that I do not like about the syllabus, and you could actually have it be a regular page instead of using that syllabus, is that all of your assignments at the bottom are there, and even if you tell students not to go through assignments there, they do anyway. And I also like that with Google, I can quickly edit and fix my typos, errors, updates, etc. And I like the videos and things that I can put in there. But Canvas continues to get better, and I love Canvas. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to have you go back to the slideshow. Did you? Thank you. All right, so also what's really important is to use a communication plan, and I actually have my sample and Lynn's sample, and Lynn put the original sample to the communication plan out a while ago, and then I took her communication plan and I revised it for my own teaching beliefs. And so we're very similar, but I think it's a good compare and contrast. If you can go ahead and open that one up, then that'd be great. Thank you. This communication plan lets students know how to contact me, when I will be contacting them, how to email me. One of the things that it also shares is how often I will be sending announcements, and I tell them that I send announcements on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Where's that? Sorry.
It's okay.
Is that right there?
No, it's lower.
Oh, okay.
Well, so discussions, I'm going to have you stop there for a minute. Sorry.
Okay.
With discussions, I tell them how I'm going to participate in discussions, that I tend to first respond to that very first discussion post, and then I will be responding to a few others each time. I'm not going to respond to everybody's post every single time. I give some ideas about peer-to-peer communication. We can keep scrolling down then. Thank you for helping me. Oh, Lynn, are you there? Or you might be frozen. I'm going to keep going because she'll catch up in just a second.
Got about 10 more minutes in the hour, just FYI.
Right. Yes, we're good. And then
am I here?
Yes, you're here now.
Sorry.
And then we're getting closer to the end. And then we have the expectations of when I will announce. How many announcements am I going to send? There have been semesters where I have sent too many announcements, and if I send too many, then the students aren't going to read them. So I really try to be really upfront with them. I'm going to send one on Monday, another on Wednesday, and then if I have to, another one sometime later in the week. But usually I keep my announcements to twice a week. All right, I am going to have you go back to the slideshow, please. And to the next slide. Okay, so a few more tips. So I actually brought this up just a second ago. How many, like for discussion posts, how often should you respond? The interesting thing about discussion posts is that you want to respond enough, but you also don't want to take charge of the discussion forum. So if you're using a discussion forum on Canvas, my rule of thumb is that I usually respond to the first person, and then I respond to approximately 20 to 25% of the posts that are there. I try to vary that, and if you have a lot of students in class, you can print out a sheet or just keep an Excel spreadsheet and put a check mark next to the ones that you've responded to. That's one way to make sure that you're responding to everybody, so everybody has a turn to listen to what it is you have to say. But you do not have to respond to every discussion post that a student ever posts. Another tip is when students have questions, guide them where to find the answer to help them to know where to look the next time. A lot of times when I first started teaching, I would just answer the question for them, but then it wouldn't help them understand how to use my Canvas course. So I still answer their question, usually. There are times when I'll say, you know, that is noted on the first page of XYZ, or it's noted on this particular assignment. Go ahead and take a look there so that they understand how to use Canvas. I link items in my announcements. So the samples that I gave you of the course content, you're not seeing everything linked there, but I link things in those announcements so that students can go right to them to understand what I'm talking about, as opposing to having to go to the module, just to make sure that they know we're on the same page. And then I also give yourself a break. You don't need to be available 24/7 and to put it in your communication plan. And so I always ask students to please try to keep correspondence to the weekdays, that if they send me emails on Saturday and Sunday, I sometimes miss out on those. So unless it's a great emergency, which usually it's not, then I ask them to please keep the correspondence to the weekdays, and they're usually pretty good about that if I'm really kindly letting them know that I'm trying to take a bit of a break on the weekend. And so also, I would like to open it up to asking what tips do you all have? And Lynn, I know you talked about Adobe Scan, and we'll include that on there.
Okay.
But we can go ahead and leave the slideshow and find out if there's anything that people would like to ask or share. This is an opportunity to do so. It is linked in the chat. Yes, it is linked in the chat, and it's also going to be on the online teaching resources. And you are welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question. You don't need to go through the chat if you don't want to.
I wanted to point out too that the college has a full subscription to Adobe Suite, which by the way, has tremendous resources for things that you can do that are creative. So we're thinking of maybe adding something on that later in the summer. But you can use Adobe to make websites, to make videos, to make slideshows, presentations. While we get to the questions, I want to try and find this one thing to
Does
show you
that
guys.
include Adobe Scan?
I don't know what that is.
Mark?
So
was
it's an
it who
app
put
that I
that
have
in
on my
there?
iPhone. I don't know if it's available on like Galaxies or Samsung phones, but it's essentially the same thing that Cam Scanner is, where you could take a picture of documents.
Yes.
Yeah, and Cam Scanner works really well, particularly, well, I teach accounting, so they're doing a lot of different schedules on different pieces of paper, and they can consolidate it all into one file, like if they're doing exercises for
Yes.
and then just upload it as one file. It works really well.
So is that, Mark, is that the free one?
Yes.
So Adobe Scan is free, because I've always had students use scanners as well, because I like them to write out certain things, but Adobe Scan is free, and you can use it for Apple and Android. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's saying yes.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
I don't know about Adobe Scanner, but Cam Scanner,
Cam's.
honestly, I don't know if it works. Well, I've used it on my iPhone and it works fine. So I assume they can use it in either, but I've never had any students say they couldn't use it in an Android or whatever.
I will share, and I know, Lynn, you're going to share something too in just 1 second. I will share that when I have an iPhone, but I have a lot of students who have Androids, and if I ever say, because I tell them, I want you to have a scanner, this is the one I use, what do you guys use, what works? Students always come out of the woodwork with, this is what I use, this is free, this is, you know, this is how you use this, and I have them help one another. They're always very helpful with those sort of tips. All right, Lynn, it looks like you're going to share something.
I am. Hang on 1 second. I just wanted to link the Google Slides here at the bottom of the chat because people are having trouble finding it. So I've just linked it again. And I wanted to share this that I found on Twitter. I think I can share this today. This is Denise Maudley Williams, and she created this document in Adobe Spark, and it is a way for her to graphically show her students the communication plan. It's a really cool, just using icons. This is what you're going to do in the class. This is what we're going to do as a class. This is what you're going to turn in, and this is how you'll hear from me. Super simple.
Super simple.
Graphic in a way that makes it so that the students have just a different way than just a big old block of text of what it is that you're going to expect of them.
And I'm going to go now. That's going to be on my list now to go to Canva and create my own.
And now she did it in Adobe, but you can make this in Canva super easily.
Right.
In any kind of graphic design platform you can, but you could also, you know, use icons, you know, as images and embed them in a page on Canvas. So that works as well.
Right.
And if, oh, by the way, if you guys want tutorials on any of these tools that we're showing you, we're available for that as well. One-on-one tutorials. So just contact us and we can walk you through those things. We don't need to have a whole session on it. We can talk to you individually and get you through, I want to make this one thing. Can you show me how to do that? And we can walk you through that.
Right. And I don't know how many items are on that particular presentation, but there are many, many, many. And some of them you go to one and then you can find another and another and another. So please,
You mean on yours?
Yes, I spent a long time trying to find the best of everything that we do and trying to encourage students. And what's great about that wonderful infographic that Lynn just showed is that it is a reminder for students that this is not a correspondence course. This is a course where we're going to interact, even though we're going to interact asynchronously. We're going to interact with one another and we're going to connect with one another. And that is really the message that is important for students to understand as part of humanizing, for sure. And I believe I even linked, I will share Michelle Pacansky's Brock's book on humanizing on Amazon. It is free, and I have linked it. It's on my presentation somewhere. You'll see.
Yeah, by the way, the link to the presentation is at the bottom of the chat. If you had sent a message to me privately, you just need to click on that button that says to, make it go back to everyone, and then you'll see the link down there at the bottom. I would open the link and bookmark the page right now before we leave the presentation, so that you all have it just right there bookmarked on your browser. Then you don't have to go searching for it in Canvas or try to figure out where it is. Do it right now.
And it will be on the online teaching resources as soon as the video is up and ready to go. But it will also be available via the announcement that we send on Mondays.
Right, and it'll be in the Humanizing Online Learning module. We have a module for this.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And like I said, I'm going to stay here for just a couple of minutes. So if you had a question about a very specific tool, like you saw something, I like that, I want to use that. Oh, hi. Hi, Ryan's daughter. If there's something that you would like to have a question, if you have a question about, we're here.
Right. And other than that, we're done for now.
Yes.
But thanks everybody. Thank you
so much.
We're going to hang around for a few minutes.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Okay, Tor.
The Adobe Suite, I remember an email about that we have access to that, but I don't remember, do we need to make a request to the campus, or do we go and have our
No. No. Do you know how when you are online and you get logged out of your email or whatever, and it gives you that little menu that comes up and you have to re-log in?
Yeah.
When you go to adobe.com and on their homepage, it says log in as an educator. Click on that, and then you put it, that screen comes up and you have access to everything. You guys, I downloaded Premiere Pro video editor onto my computer for free. I mean, that's a expensive piece of software that is pretty cool to be able to have for free. And I've used Adobe Page, which makes these really cool interactive websites where I have students create multimodal compositions in there, videos with voiceover that are very cool, and they have great tutorials for what it is that you want to do. Do you want to tell a story? Do you want to teach a lesson? Do you want to, so, and they have templates that'll walk you through whatever the thing is you want to do.
Yeah. Okay.
It's very cool. Just go in there and sort of play around a little bit. But if you see something that you want to try, just email me and I'll let you know if I have some experience with it.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I have a question. I actually have like 4,000 questions, but I'll stick to this one. One of the things that I'm struggling with is creating a group dynamic that I used to do in the classroom that in the online environment. An example is I teach manufacturing accounting. So I have Tinker Toys that they play with and then build a little thing and then cost it out and prepare, a price and profit and that kind of stuff. I don't know how to do that in Canvas. So obviously there are separate rooms you can put students in if you're asynchronous, but if you're synchronous, but in an asynchronous environment, I'm really having a hard time understanding what to do to facilitate group work. That's a big question, and maybe in one of your future things you can address that, but any thoughts?
How to be creative with groups, for sure. In fact, I'm wondering, do we have that as one of our topics?
I don't know that we do, but groups is my jam. It's my thing. I'm really into it. But I brainstorming here as you're saying that, because I've had a lot of success with groups, but they have mostly been in discussion types of situations. So to do something that requires a component where they are creating something, we have to figure out how to do that in an asynchronous way. And I think what you might want to do is have each student be responsible for a part and put them on a collaborative document or page or something to that effect to get them to do, each one do their part. And if they have to do it in stages, each student would do it one, you know, stage one is done, it goes to stage 2, stage 3. And the difficult part about that is that you would need to be engaged in that group. So you'd have to add yourself to that group and be sure that you were encouraging them to keep moving along. So that could be difficult in a giant class like Chase has, but I don't know how big.
My classes are like 30. So.
Oh, okay, so you could do it. That's a thought off the top of my head, but let me put some thought into that and see.
I have a couple of ideas too. There's a few things, because there's a couple of different things that you can do. You can create groups in Canvas, like Lynn was saying, and then you add yourself to a group as a student because Dave has given.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
Right, but you can also do something where you're not doing groups in that particular way. Sometimes I group students up at the beginning of the semester. Just I say, these are the people that are going to be in the groups, and then I have each group responsible for something. Another way I jigsaw things out is by last name. So if I want 4 groups or 5 groups of something, I do it by, if your last name is between A and D, you're in this group. But another is that you can have students, because we have Pronto now.
I was going to say Pronto.
Yeah, because we have Pronto now, you can have students, you put them in whatever groups you want. You have them meet with one another on Pronto. They decide the time.
In a live stream.
They do a live stream on Pronto, and then they're meeting together to work on whatever thing that they're doing. That's another way to do it. So, and Pronto is going to be here. We actually have it, so it's not going away.
It's not going away. We're going to keep it past the trial. So we are having another meeting with them for ways that we can use it, and we'll have some more sessions on that. So that's the first thing we're going to talk about, Mark, is how to best use groups in Pronto, because that is one of it I see as its biggest
critical
allure is how it can help students to connect with each other in a real way. So
and another thing, Mark, and I just right now, because I'm thinking about this, because Lynn and I are both English, but I'm thinking that we might open up a Google Doc, an editable Google Doc or an editable Canvas page, and send out saying, okay, what are your best group ideas? And so we get group ideas not just from English people,
yeah.
but we get group ideas from everybody in the community. And so that's actually, I'm going to write that down now. We can do that very easily in an editable Canvas page for everybody to edit on online teaching resources, and ask people to please send their best group ideas. And that can be part of, because there's a lot of different ways that you can do groups. You just have to think about what is real for you. But I will tell you, Mark, I've had students, I have the Tinker Toys and the Legos, and I have students build things too. So I know that I use it for something different. I wonder if students can take what they have at their house and each build something. I know that they're not doing it in groups, but they can show that they've built, how would you build XYZ? And then they all have their ideas, and they can share that in a discussion forum or on a collaborative Google Doc, so that
then they can still do the costing out and all that stuff.
Well, and I'm thinking more that they can meet together and do something together as opposed to at different times.
Pronto.
That's Pronto.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send you a link for how to do that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because they could do a live stream just like we're doing Zoom, but it's just much easier and much more informal.
Yeah.
Quick
it's like
question
FaceTime.
on groups.
What's that, Tor?
Quick question on the groups. Are you grading them as a group or individually?
Individually.
I grade them individually. And some of the stuff is just participation points.
Right.
In other words, they're there. They if somebody doesn't want to participate, which doesn't happen, but you know, as long as they're participating and they're working with each other and they're sharing their schedules and doing stuff, then I just give them.
It's the default grade for those.
Yes, exactly. That's
right?
exactly right. It's a default.
Does
You got to think about it in terms of
try to share my screen. I want to show this.
do you know how when you're doing your you just have your regular face-to-face class, you're doing activities in your classroom? They don't get points for that usually, right? But in an online environment, if you ask them to do something, you need to give them some sort of default credit for it, for everything they do. I had mine filling out a checklist on when they did their homework, and I give them 10 points for it. So and it's not about grade grubbing. It's really more about formative versus summative assessments. Each of these things that we would normally be doing as activities in our classes become these formative assessments. So it's practice, and you are giving them credit for their practice.
I totally agree with that. In fact, that's the way I did it in the classroom, is because I wasn't lecturing. I wasn't. The content, the publisher has a lot of stuff they can get on the content. They're coming to class to practice.
That's right.
And so
that's flipped.
The whole flipped concept. Yeah. And now I'm going back to being a lecturer again. And I don't like it because, you know, some of them don't even watch the videos I produce. So. Right.
It took me a long time. But please keep talking. I want to show you the default grading and the default messaging. Because to me, I totally agree with Mark and Lynn. For me, it's all about students having the opportunity to participate. I don't really care about the grade. I know that may sound terrible, but I don't. I just want them to practice. All right. Here's our online teaching resources. And great question. I love that you're using the Tinker toys and Legos and things, Mark.
You know those, have you guys seen those videos on social media where, I don't know, the one I saw was with like a makeup brush. It's like TikTok, where the video is, this person doing whatever they do, and then the hand goes over the camera like this, and when it comes back, it's a different person.
Oh, I love that.
Have you seen those?
No, I have not. That's very cool.
That would be a really fun thing for students to be able to do, if, you know, and you can edit it together in Camtasia, Mark. Super easy, you know, where they send you the video clip. All they do is the clip of what they made, and then they put their hand or whatever over the camera, and then the next person takes their hand away.
Oh, that's a good idea. It's a great idea.
That is a great idea. I want to do it. And you can do that in clips too.
Yeah, clips. Yeah. Or Camtasia or TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots of educators using TikTok.
Oh my gosh, Lynn, I totally want to do that. I totally want to, and yeah, that's awesome.
My issue that I have with students is that they are reluctant to learn new tech. So anything that I can use that is tech they already know and already like to use is easier for me.
Right.
Because they're like, oh God, I got to download Flipgrid and figure out how to, you know, log in and make an account. I don't want to do that, you know. And we want them to, and we know it'll be engaging and we know it'll be interesting, but it puts a tiny bit of cognitive burden on them to have to do that. So anything that we can do to create ways that they can engage with each other using tech that they already have is easy. And Pronto they already have because it's embedded in Canvas.
Right.
So if they just download the app the way they do the student app, it is linked, and the interfaces work together.
Right. Let me show just for a moment.
Sorry.
But no, you're good. This is good. The brainstorming is sometimes part of the best part. So obviously nobody has turned anything in, but it's very easy to show you the 3 dots here. Except clicked
You
on
didn't
this.
have anything turned in, so it's not gonna, it won't give you that option, right?
The 3 dots should be there anyway. So anyway, I wanted to show you default grading, and I wanted to show you the default message. And I use default grading for so much, and default messaging for so much for students, especially people who have the big, you know, you have the larger classes. So let's try this again. I'm gonna hover, okay, here, hover. Okay, so the 3 dots are here. I'm clicking on the 3 dots. Okay, so Zoom always makes it interesting. So I can message students who, and I don't, this is very frustrating because it's not letting me do it.
Because there's no grades there. There's no submissions, that's why.
All right. Keep talking.
But you can't go to a class where you have student submissions, I don't think. But you get the gist, right? Like you can see where she clicks on those dots. You just go to message students who
I can
haven't
go to
turned it in.
I can go to my practice 2020 class.
Yeah, do that.
Or my VoiceThread class. So because I've had students turn something in. I'm going to go to VoiceThread for educators. Okay. Sorry, that's the one thing about Zoom is that you just cannot work as quickly as you'd like to. All right. All right. We'll see. Well, I have had somebody turn something in. See, here it's here. She turned it in. So if you look at the set default grades, you can always default your grades to whatever it is. So it's full credit or not. And I always mark the zeros first. An equitable grading practice could be to give everybody who didn't turn something in a partial grade that doesn't mess up the overall, but I then would give them all the grade. But I also can send message students who, I use this so much, those who haven't submitted yet. I always take out the no submission because I just want them to do this, and I'll say this is a friendly reminder, and then I just go on and I send the message, and it goes to each individual student as if you've emailed just them. And a lot of times they'll email back, thank you so much, I appreciate it, thank you for the reminder. They're so appreciative for these reminders. And then I will send it, you know, if I want to do feedback here, scored more than 1. And I can get rid of this already and say, thank you so much for your wonderful submission. I really appreciate that you paid attention to this, 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 and this, and send it as overall feedback for those who have participated. This just lets them know that I know that they are there. And it comes in an individual message. They don't know that I have not written out each message to each student. So I just wanted to take a moment to share that.
Yeah, that's a really awesome tool. So the speed grader can be cumbersome, but that for formative assessments where you're giving everybody the same score and similar overall feedback, that's a great way to do it.
Great for big class. All right, well,
that's it, everybody.
Any other questions? All right. Well, then we will say goodbye. Lynn, if you can stay for just a moment, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Bye. Thanks for coming.